What up, salam, salam. Oh yeah, feel like a brand new penny. Look at that. Look at that copper skin right there. Oh, so yeah, I see the title. There's been many discrepancies or even just different ideas on who was Al Khidr. Al Khidr meaning the verdant or the green one. Many stories. Some people think Quetzalcoatl. Some people think of the Green Knight. Some people think of the Green Dragon. Maybe even the angel Jabril being green. Green, also known as the color of geniuses, or of course vegetation and whatnot. Al Khizr is a figure within the Quran, searching when Musa, alayhi salam, or Moses was looking for someone wiser than him. So we're gonna look at a different type of view on who Al Khidr is. I thought it was interesting that maybe we should look at. This is from Mufti Abu Layth out of England. See what his idea of Khizr is.
Or Khadr means the one to do with green. Why they call him green is apparently because where he would sit, that piece of land, that piece of soil would turn green. So this is what some people say. Some people say no because he would carry something that's green, and they've got different versions for why he was called Khadir. Now, what is this whole story about? What is this emergence? And this is important because he is the character, the person that people say Allah is referring to in Surah Al-Kahf. So if I open for us, if we go to Surah Al-Kahf,
18th Surah, Surah Al-Kahf, or the cave.
right, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. When we approach verse 60 in Surah Kahf, Allah mentions وَإِذْ قَالَ مُوسَى لِفَتَاهُ لَا أَبْرَحْ that I حتى أبلغ مجمع البحرين أو أمضي حقبا. Now this is a story of Moses begins at this stage in Surah Al-Kahf. And then it's about Moses and his assistant, his kind of companion, this young man who in the hadith you'll see is Yusha ibn Nun, Joshua.
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. And remember the time when Moses said to his young companion, I will not stop until I reach the junction of the two seas, or I will journey on for ages.
And they set off on this journey. فلما بلغ مجمع بينهما نسيا حوتهما فاتخذ سبيله في البحر سربا. And that they reach this place and they take some rest and they forget they have this fish and the fish kind of jumps out into the
But when they reached the place where the two seas met, they forgot their fish, and it made its way into the sea, going away swiftly.
sea. Then they go off and the whole point is that they are told that that was the place we were meant to go to where these two seas meet. And here they meet, it mentions فوجد عبدا من عبادنا آتيناه رحمة من عندنا وعلمناه من لدنا علما. That they found a slave of ours and this slave had been given certain knowledge. And him and Moses go on this journey. فقال لهم موسى هل أتبعك على أن تعلمني مما علمت رشدا. So he asks him,
Slave of ours, meaning a servant of God, one of his servants, whatever way you want to put it. A lot of people get hung up on the word slave, get real sensitive about it, but bottom line, you're a slave to your senses or to your carnal desires if you're not a slave to God.
can I go with you on this journey? And he says to him that this servant says that, look, you won't be able to keep up with me and you won't be able to be patient enough to put up with me. And Moses tells him, no, I will. And they set off on this journey. And on this journey, uh, this person, Khadr or Khidr, I will call him Khidr, I prefer Khidr. Khidr, he embarks on certain tasks and adventures Amongst them, they embark on a ship, and he purposely damages the ship. And then in another place, he murders a child. And then in another place, he rectifies a broken wall.
Yeah, that was wild when they was talking about, oh, they know about a child. It's supposed to be someone that's more knowledgeable than Moses or Musa. And he was telling Moses, like, yo, don't say nothing. When you see me doing something, is I got a wisdom beyond yours. I thought it was crazy when he deleted the child.
Moses, on each of these occasions, objects heavily, and each time is reprimanded for not being able to maintain his promise of staying silent. And then Moses apologizes on each occasion. And then eventually he is told some of the secrets, and Khidr says to him that وَمَا فَعَلْتُهُ عَنْ أَمْرِي, that that's not something that I did out of my choice, but this is what God had instructed or inspired me to do. So now the elaboration of this hadith we find in Sahih Bukhari. Okay. So, and this is where we actually
Yeah, he's going to a hadith now. Mind you, hadith and Quran is different, separate things. He's going into the cultural aspect, the breakdowns of these stories.
find the greater detail. So this hadith in Sahih Bukhari, and there's several hadith to do with Moses and Khidr, spanning several pages. But this particular one, in the book of Tafsir, where you have hadith 4724, sorry, after that, beginning 4725. وإذ قال موسى لفتاه لا أبرح حتى أبلغ مجمع البحرين أو أمضي حقبا. So Musa says that I will go, and he tells Joshua that I will go. So in this hadith, it begins with Sa'id ibn Jubayr saying to Ibn Abbas that there's a person called Nawfal Bikali. Now, Nawfal Bikali was somebody that would tell tales. He was an orator. He said that the Moses of Khidr was a different Moses. So he was saying this in their day and age. So Sa'id ibn Jubayr tells this to Ibn Abbas. Ibn Abbas objects and says, Kadhaba adu Allah, that he's lying. I heard Ubay
About to say, it don't make no sense because if you got Yusha or Yashua with you, and
ibn Ka'ab tell me that the Prophet said, Inna Musa qama khatiban fi bani Israel fasu'ila ayyun nas a'lam. So Musa one day stood and he preached, and he said to people that somebody asked him, Bani Israel, the Israelites, who is the most knowledgeable of people? So he said, I am, because he was a prophet of God. So at this stage, that he is told by God that actually there's other people more knowledgeable than you. Why don't you set off on this journey? And he goes on this journey, and فَأَوْحَى اللَّهُ إِلَيْهِ إِنَّ لِي عَبْدًا. So Allah tells him, I have a servant who is بِمَجْمَعَ الْبَحْرَيْن, at a particular location where the two seas unite. He is more knowledgeable than you. So he sets about on this journey. He's told to take a fish with him and carry it. So they go on. They set off. وَانْطَلَقَ مَعَهُ بِفَتَاهُ. So he's Yusha ibn Nun. So Joshua, it mentions in Sahih Bukhari, his companion's name is Joshua.
so the young person that was with Musa in that story is supposed to be Joshua.
حتى إذا أتي الصخرة, until they reach this big boulder, this big rock. وضع رؤوسهما, they place their heads down, they lay their heads, فناما, and they go to sleep. Now this is a really interesting point. Why?
From our sunny beaches to the bustling city streets, if you've been injured in an accident, the attorneys at Sweet James are here to help.
Because this is where a lot of, I feel, the scholars in the past, for whatever reasons, overlooked this. The rest of everything that happens whilst they were asleep. It was a vision.
So what he's saying, this whole story of what the crazy stuff even that Khidr did, subhanallah, things that we can't understand. He's saying this was actually a vision um, of Musa, starting with the fish coming back to life and jumping into the water. I just thought this was interesting.
Right. So this thing of them going to sleep here, as it mentions and it alludes to in the Quran, that they go to this place, and then Joshua sees that the fish takes a unique it takes a unique path into the sea, as the verse of the Quran mentions. That it says, "Look, فَاتَّخَذَ سَبِيلَهُ فِي الْبَحْرِ سَرَبًا." And then Moses says to him as they set off. Then they get up and they walk off, and then later Moses says to him, "I'm hungry. Where's that fish?" And he says, "Oh, but the fish, it jumped into the sea, but it went in such a strange way. It kind of emerged, and the reason it was doing this is all this was a vision. They never emerged from that sleep. The rest of everything that happens in a dream, in a vision, right? So he goes, and they say, "Oh, really? Is that where? Let's go back to that place." And they can see that this fish, the Mufassirin say that the water around it is like, so as it's kind of taking its kind of unique path into the sea, the water around it is making a formation. The water is kind of standing up around it. It's keeping itself from collapsing, and it's really strange. So they're like, "Wow, what is this about?" And then there they find this person Khidr, and in certain stories that he will, wherever he sits, the land turns green, and that's because this is all a vision. It's happening within a vision. Hence, you see that, look, all of a sudden, you will find that they then, as they carry on, all of a sudden they're upon a boat. So many of the Salaf discuss how.
Yeah, they do just like go into different aspects with Musa and Al Khidr in different circumstances.
How was Khidr on this boat puncturing, creating a hole in this boat so it can drown? So what he does is he damages this boat so it will start to sink. And because it's damaged, the person that was about to kind of rob the boat will let it be. But the question that the Salaf asked is, when he was damaging this boat, the people on the boat, they weren't blind. I mean, if you're on a boat and somebody's damaging it, why did they let him do this? So Abu Aliya from the Salaf and other people, they said that's because he was invisible to them. You see, now this is the thing. And then all of a sudden, they're no longer on this boat. And then they're traveling and they see this boy. And he murders this boy. And Musa alayhi salam,
But definitely is a wild part when he off that boy, and he said in the future he was going to be, a tyrant or a bad person.
says to him, "Laqad, جئت شيئا نكرا." What on earth have you done? أَكَتَلْتَ نَفْسًا زَكِيَّةً بِغَيْرِ نَفْسٍ. That you murdered an innocent soul. So the Prophet Moses is condemning what he's done. And he says to him, "Look, I told you you can't be patient." And then they go and they find a wall. All of a sudden, they're at a town where this wall is dilapidating, and Khidr rectifies this wall, and he fixes it. And he asks Moses, and then Moses says to him, "Look, why didn't you take these people of this village were rude to us. They didn't even offer us," because in that day and age, there was like a global custom, or especially in that regional custom, that when you went past a village, if there were strangers, you would offer them food or water. That was a custom. But these people ignored Moses and Khidr. They completely blanked them. And yet Khidr fixes their wall and does work for them. And so Moses says to him, "Why didn't you at least charge them for this? We should have taken something from them. We worked, we gave labor to them." So, and then at this stage, Khidr says, "That's it. هذا فراق." He says, "This is هذا فراق بيني وبينك." This is it. It all ends here.
And Moses kept asking questions of things he didn't understand that Al Khidr was doing.
You go your way, I go my way. Now the question is, how were they shifting from all these paradigms? And then he tells Moses that, "Okay, I'll tell you what I was doing. That child was going to cause great harm, and Allah was going to replace that child with another child, and that ship was going to get robbed, and these things, and so on and so forth." The ship, that there was a king, kana wara'ahum malikun ya'khudhu kulla safinatin ghasba, that there was a king that was snatching every ship. Now the reason for this was that You see, the reason for all of this was that there was a moral. Now, a lot of the scholars in the past took this as a literal kind of reading. Now, when they took it as a literal reading, they kind of got stuck because now they had to explain a lot of what was going on. So they had to say, first of all, who was Khidr? So this became a question. So now, when they said, okay, who was Khidr? Some of them said, well, first of all, was he a prophet? So this became the first kind of debate. So many people said that, oh, and this, once again, you're going to get a hell of a lot of debate and discussion going on here. So you're going to have scholars that say, okay, he was a prophet. فَقِيلَ إِنَّهُ النَّبِي. Then they say, was he a prophet sent to the people? Or he wasn't sent to any people?
Yeah, that bringing a lot of confusion. I just thought that was interesting. I'm saying that Musa and his companion, they went to sleep on their journey and woke up to their fish coming back to life and going into the waters and things happening. That could have very well been a vision. Let me know what y'all think in the comments. Thank you for coming through. Black Light out.